Hi, Glenn here. I am the People's Carpenter and welcome to my workshop. So I thought there would be just one more video on this walnut slab coffee table, but I've added another one into the mix just because I've done something. I didn't know if I was going to do this or not, and it's kind of taken up enough time to justify a whole video by itself. I've made my first ever bow tie repair. There is a crack, a split running through there. There's another small one there as well, and so I've got a bow tie running through them. I may have to do more as well. I'm not yet sure. I'll give this thing a proper inspection to see, but well, it's exciting. I've never done this before, and if you've never done it before, then you can watch me to see how it's done, and if you have, you can watch me to judge me. So I can see that I should really do something about these cracks. Looking at the end, I can see that it almost goes all the way through, but not quite. So this is the underside, which I guess helps me because anything I do to fix that crack won't be visible from the top. But I'm going to do something I haven't done before, which is kind of cool, and that's make a bow tie. And I think that my best option here is to make one bow tie that will cover both of these cracks. So I've had a quick look at the dimensions here, and I reckon, so from there to there is 100 millimeters. So I should make a bow tie that's 100 mils long. And I'm going to make it out of this piece of limu. You can take a couple of approaches with bow ties. Either you can try to make it blend right in, which is going to be difficult because you've got your grain running that way. That's the way any split's going to run. But with your bow tie, you have to make the grain run along the length of the bow tie. So at least you're going to have the grain running in the wrong direction. So having it invisible is going to be a little bit tricky, or you can just say, right, it's going to stand out, so I'll make it contrast, and that's what will happen here. This is a piece of limu. Limu has quite a range of color depending on the piece. This piece is somewhat lighter than some, but that's what I'll be using. I'll go and get a square. Now, some of these dimensions are a little bit arbitrary, just based on what I think might look good. And that's it. Actually, no, that's not good enough. That's not enough of a bow tie shape. That's not obvious enough to me, to my eye. Right, yeah, that looks better. Okay, it looks messy now with all these pencil lines, but just you wait. Okay, yeah, that looks better. That looks better. Looks a bit more like a bow tie. I'll go over to the bandsaw, cut this out, and then I'll look at the recess. maybe the chisel will be the thing to use for that. Now, as long as it's very straight, that's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'll show you why right at the end when I come to install it. Okay, now that's much thicker than I will ever need, so I'll just cut it in two and then I'll have two bow ties. So let's clamp this in place good and tight, because you really don't want that to move while you are doing the outline on the underside of the slab, which I'm going to do with this very nice marking knife. Oops. And you want to do a decently deep cut to sever the fibers of the wood, so that when I remove the material for the recess, there isn't any tear out on the surface. As I do this, I'm thinking about the best way to start removing material. I've seen people just go straight from here to using a small router, which is fine. Nothing at all wrong with that, but, well, you can also do this. You just want to hold it down and hold it steady. Don't just push with all your might, because you don't want the thing to go flying off and do who knows what damage. Okay, let's try some routing. Fortunately, there's a light on this router which will make it easy for me to see what I'm doing. Unfortunately, I may not always be able to show you clearly what I'm doing, just because, well, it's a small space I'm working in down here. That's deep enough. Now I will I'll move the camera and I'll just tidy up the edges with a chisel. What I'm tending to do here is to help give me leverage. I'm bending the chisel, leaning the chisel back over the edge of the recess, but I don't want to do that. That could damage the edge more than I want to, so I'll just go and get a suitable hammer, like so. Super close to being there. And at this point you just kind of decide where you want to remove wood from. I'll make sure I'm holding that right way. Yes, I was. Because you could make this fit by further refining the shape of the ribbon, or by further refining the shape of the recess. Now I can see I've got some gaps around this recess, and some of them are kind of ugly, but I do have a plan. So I've shaved away a little from this, and I can see it will go in, just to make sure it does. I don't want to remove much. And I'm just favouring the edge that will sit in that recess. Just sanding off the tiniest amount so that the result is the subtlest of taperers. I speak to an international audience, and so I realise that sometimes when someone like me from New Zealand, who sounds a little bit British because of that, speaks a word that finishes with an R, we have a very soft R. We don't have a hard R like the Irish or the Americans. So sometimes I say taper, even though it wouldn't be natural for me to do so, just so that you understand me. Okay, I can bang that down easily. I won't, because when I do, it'll be difficult to get it out. Just make sure I get as much debris out of there as possible. Right, now I'll show you how I will avoid there being gaps that are too large around the surface, around the edge. So normally these days I have my sander hooked up to the vacuum, but just for now I've got that small dust collector on it, and I'm going to make and capture some walnut dust. Okay, let's see if I've got enough of this walnut dust. Yes, easily. Some of you will know exactly what I'm doing, in fact probably all of you. I'm going to make up a paste of this wood glue and this walnut dust, which will produce basically a kind of putty. Yeah, the dust actually goes pretty far. So I may even have enough of this that this will be all the adhesive I'll use. That's fine, it does work as an adhesive. But it's most important that you get this around the edges so that it will fill the gaps around the edges. Making a huge old mess, but that's okay. This is all going to be sanded. And yeah, I won't actually need any other glue because there's so much of this stuff. And there will be lots of squeeze out, I'm sure, which is good. Right, I'll get a couple of clamps to secure this. And just to make sure there aren't any gaps that I've missed, I'll give it a good rub around and press in. But that's going to give me a good result. So I'll remove some of the excess now. It's a shame I hadn't already made the other bow ties that I need. Oh, what a dreadful mess. Okay, I'll leave that for now. I'll come back. I should really wait for tomorrow because I've got work that needs doing on my assignment. Yep, I'll come back tomorrow. Okay, so any gaps are now a sort of dark walnut coloured line, although there aren't too many obvious gaps. Inadvertently though, with that putty, I've filled the crack at the surface here. So someone might look at this and go, what's that there for? But they'll see the crack at the end. Well, that's my first ever bow tie and I'm calling it a success. I may, after inspecting the top, I may do one or two on the top surface, so I wanted to make the first one that I tried on the underside.